welcome to another video. Purple Bullet Talk here, and today we're going to go over the 2020 presidential elections, and we're going to go through and see what is Donald Trump's best case scenario. So this is what I'm talking about. It's not like he wins all the swing states. I'm talking about margins and then what is realistically his best case scenario. Because of course you can say, well, Donald Trump's going to win the state of Hawaii. Realistically, the best case scenario for any real party would be winning all the states. But again, that would probably never happen under even the craziest of circumstances. And we're just going to go through and just check out each individual state to see how good or bad they could be going for Donald Trump in his best case scenario. So let's fill in our safe states. And while I'm doing that, I think this election season will become a lot closer than some people may think. Many people think that the Democrats have this election already wrapped up. It's going to be easy for them to win. But in reality, I think it's going to be more than that. Actually, the state of Maine at large would not be safe at this point. And we're going to see a lot closer races, in addition to many races that were more favoring the Republican Party to narrow up a lot less. They're going to move further to the right when it comes to voting. Places that we would see, like the whole state of Nebraska at this point. Donald Trump is doing amazing. He probably could win the whole state by a safe margin. This is very unheard of and things like that. And I think in this best case scenario, what's going to ultimately have to happen is a pretty crazy thing, for a Donald Trump full-on swing state victory. And I think if you haven't checked out my 2020 prediction with Bernie Sanders factored in, if he ran an independent campaign, go check it out, because the video is going to show one of the real plausible scenarios where Donald Trump can just take it away. But in a 2-candidate race, which is a lot different from a 3-candidate race, where can Donald Trump take away voters from Joe Biden and probably win some states, and by how much? The question is not if, but rather how, by how much. So we're going to go through states, and I'm going to start saying that districts that are usually more Republican, so states like Maine would go into the lean column. States like Ohio would be like in the farther likely column, farther into the likely column. Think of the state of Florida, North Carolina. I think if Joe Biden does something horrendous for his campaign, it just comes tumbling from there. We can easily see a Donald Trump comeback. Again, very highly unlikely. Don't mark my words right now, because this, if it were to happen, it would be a very crazy scenario. And I think the stability of the country would be in question, because we're probably going to see a lot of people be upset with the Donald Trump victory. But at the end of the day, it's all politics. Politics is about power. It's about the numbers and about how you can kind of manipulate the people to think what you think. And I think that is a horrendous thing that politicians do. But again, it's part of the system, which is a reason why some people say it's broken. And then that's why some people who are involved in politics, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you say, oh, this is working perfectly for me. So these ideas that we have here is that some states will come into the likely margins, and they will go further. In states like Arizona at this point, I think Donald Trump goes on and wins his best case scenario. He takes the state of Arizona with him. And that would be a nice margin for Donald Trump. And you have like 5-point margin in Arizona, which for a race like this is amazing. Iowa will probably be by 7 or 10 points in Donald Trump's best case scenario. Same thing in the state of Ohio, 7 to 10 points. North Carolina, the 5 to 7% point. And Florida probably like in the 6 to 8% point in Donald Trump's absolute best case scenario. Now, the Democrats, they don't really have states that they could probably pull off in likely margins. In Donald Trump's best case scenario at this point, we're going to see states like Wisconsin go into the lean column. At this point, the state of Wisconsin is going to be ultra tight. So if Donald Trump doesn't have to win any other state, if we win only the states that we have marked for him right now, he would win the presidency. Again, in a best case scenario, this would expand a little more. And ultimately states that went to Hillary Clinton were going to be the closest states in 2020 if Donald Trump goes on to win his best case scenario. Now, other than that, I don't see any other states probably going to in the lean column, except maybe the state of Pennsylvania, because the state of Pennsylvania has this weird dynamic with with voters from everywhere. And again, if we counter voter suppression, mailing voting, that's the same thing. If you count all these different things, and there's people who are working in the state of Pennsylvania, especially in the western part of the state. That's where you're getting farther away from the city. We're more rural Pennsilvania, and that's where you have the working class farmers that kind of get out the Republican vote. And I think they're going to be happy because a lot of the voters in Pennsylvania, yeah, when they get polled, they probably poll a little bit more in certain areas that could be more Democratic, or when they poll places like Texas or Georgia, they could be polling places that are a little more Republican. These polling firms, they know what they're doing, but possibly there could be some bias from the areas they poll in. So at this point, I think Donald Trump's best case scenario, he wins Pennsylvania by 3 to 5 points. Now, the state of Minnesota, I think, is also a contender for the lean margins, and here's why. The state of Minnesota, although it can be leaning Democratic all you want right now, which certainly it is, but at the end of the day, you guys must consider that the state of Minnesota is becoming more Republican. Those states, the swing states that went, they went because they were tired and of the Democratic rule, which at this point that doesn't apply. But many Minnesotans, they like the Republicans. You saw a very close Secretary of State race in the state of Minnesota, with Keith Ellison, who won. You had a pretty close special election for a seat that went to Hillary Clinton because for the Senate. Because if you think about it, if there's an incumbent president who's the opposing party of the person who won in that state in the last presidential election, very highly unlikely that the incumbent president's party will win. Why? Because of these media sources, different ideals in the country, and honestly, this is why it's important to consider administrations and things like that, because they have a huge impact on Americans' thinking. Whether it is by lobbying the media, whether it is using different strategies and things like that, all these things truly do affect campaigns. So now, we're left with our lean Democratic states. In Donald Trump's best case scenario, I think Democrats will hold on to the state of New Mexico by 2 or 3 points. This thing, Donald Trump is kind of a lost cause for him in the state of New Mexico. Best case scenario, it could get close, but not super duper close, like, you know what I mean? And actually, now that I'm saying this, states like Oregon will go down a little bit in Donald Trump's best case scenario. This would be in a crazy scenario where the state of Oregon could easily go to Joe Biden by 7 to 10 points, but I think Donald Trump can lower that margin a little bit and go down to a probably 7-point loss, which is still a lot, but considering it's the state of Oregon, it's pretty remarkable. It's like the Democrats, what they got in Texas in 2016, but a little bit more elevated. So now, what is left is going to be our tilt states. At this point, these are all states except the state of Michigan that went to Hillary Clinton. At this point, if I had to bet, the state that probably will not go to Donald Trump in regular circumstances out of all the Rust Belt states will be the state of Michigan. I'm not saying the whole Rust Belt will go to Donald Trump, but the least likely to go to Donald Trump is the state of Michigan. Now, so let's just categorize that first. I think the state of Michigan, in Donald Trump's best case scenario, he wins it by a very slim margin. State of Michigan, listen up. They elected Gretchen Whitmer in 2018. She's become a nice popular figure and things like that. They re-elected their senator, Debbie Stabenow, in 2018. There's a lot of Democratic influences in this state. And when you look at someone like Joe Biden, yeah, whatever, he's going to have very good appeal to that area. But if Donald Trump can't have the appeal, he will probably win the state of Michigan by a slim margin. When it comes to all the other states that are left out, the state of New Hampshire could go to Donald Trump by the same margin that Michigan went to. It was the closest state in 2016. And honestly, in a best case scenario for Donald Trump, which again, this is very unlikely this will happen. if anything, Donald Trump will be hoping if he's going to win. Because at this point, it's looking like Joe Biden is going to win. But again, who knows if anything is wrong. And remember, there's a long time until election night. So it really does depend. So at this point, states like New Hampshire, I think if Donald Trump puts enough resources and makes this his best case scenario nationwide, he could have a shot at the state of New Hampshire, and he's probably going to win if he has that shot. What you've seen with the Trump campaign in 2016, what was one big thing that we saw? Well, I think one of the big distinctions that we saw from the Trump campaign is that when they had a shot to win a state, they won almost all the swing states they could. There are some states that had some more leaning Democratic, things like that. Look, they had a shot to win the state of Wisconsin, they won the state of Wisconsin. Michigan, Pennsylvania. When the Trump campaign comes close, they just grab it. I think that's what I've noticed with them. And now, while I'm at this, I'm going to say that the state of Maine, although it might get a lot closer, the votes in the first congressional district will heavily go to Democrats, I guess. And it will outperform the margins by Donald Trump and Joe Biden in the other district. So at this point, if though that is the case, I think Maine at large will go to Joe Biden, but by a super narrow margin, probably by 3 to, not 3, but just, actually, now let me put it in the lean column. Probably by 2 to 3 points. So now what's left? I consider this the new Democratic vote. So that would be like here. These couple of states right there. What do I think will happen? Well, states like Nevada will go to Donald Trump in Donald Trump's absolute best case scenario and by the same margin as Michigan and New Hampshire. Why? Well, the state of Nevada has been losing a lot of its Democratic population. And the state of Nevada, also something else that is currently happening is that Republican vote, although it might have shined away and things like that, it's coming back slowly but surely. The Republican Party should be investing a little more in the state of Nevada to bring back that vote, the suburban Las Vegas vote, because the Democrats are losing the people in the city. So they should take that chance to win a safety net for electoral votes, because at this point, by the time, if they keep investing in the state, it could become reliably Republican. And remember, Republicans should be looking for states that they can invest in, stay in, and control. Because at this point, they lose the state of Texas, for example. That's it. It's kind of election over. It becomes a lot closer, and it's a big voting. You see, they went from it's almost 40 electoral votes, which at this point is going to matter. When elections come, we're probably going to go up to 10 electoral votes, 20 electoral votes, 30 electoral votes. Winning states like Texas will be what decides if you win or not. And honestly, Donald Trump has a super crazy, amazing best case scenario. State of Colorado will go to Donald Trump. This prediction might not be the super accurate when it comes to realisticness and the probability to happen. The probability of this happening is probably next to zero. Donald Trump has to pull off some type of miracle. He would first of all have to come and catch up to Joe Biden and then run ahead of Joe Biden. And not saying that Donald Trump can't do that, because if 2016 was anything to prove, we can see that Donald Trump will probably catch up, because 2016 was, I think, one of the most interesting elections when it comes to cash up and lead. So at this point, I think that's what's going to happen. Same thing in the state of Virginia. Donald Trump, if he's going to win by a super big margin, which I think will heavily rely on him probably going and putting things out to vote, investing enough money in different places. Donald Trump would only win, well, he wouldn't only win because that was a big margin, but he would win by 348 electoral votes compared to Joe Biden's 190. What does this tell us? Well, that Republicans, if they're going to win big electoral landslides, they're going to have to go deeper than the swing states. Even if you give them the state of New Mexico, that is barely a 350 landslide. Don't start talking about Republican blowouts, because that is next to impossible with the map they have against them. So yeah, so I think if Donald Trump kind of reaches that super high point where he's out of the roof popular, he's super popular, where he has enough money to invest in all these different swing states, the most it probably would go by, and by different margins, is 348 electoral votes for Donald Trump, 190 for Joe Biden. Guys, I want to thank all of you for watching this video. I'm really very thankful for your support. And if you're not currently subscribed, please do so now. We will do a subscriber giveaway when we reach 250 subscribers. And for those of you who are currently not joining our Patreon link is Purple Political. So patreon.com/purplepolitical. Go check it out. There's many cool features there. And if you sign up, there's many different tiers and you'll receive some prizes and things like that. Again, thank you for watching, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.